Hi, I'm Unruly Anime. The story begins as a group of warriors take on some kind of rock monster. This giant's face gets all sliced up by these warriors, as it is explained to us that all members of a party have various roles, such as attacker and healer. Our protagonist is different. His name is Rud, and he is a tank. Rud saves a girl named Nin from getting squashed.
俺、ルードはタンク。パーティーの盾役として敵の攻撃を一手に引き受け、メンバーを守る役割。エンド下の力持ち的。
As it's the tank's job to draw all enemy attacks and protect the other members. Being a tank isn't the most glamorous position among powerful adventurers. But this is a story of how our boy Rud changes all of that and becomes the protagonist after the battle. Rud imagines finally reuniting with his sister, Manisha, whom he had to leave for battle. Nin snaps him out of it before he embarrasses himself even further. But Rud is upset that she interrupted him. She reminds him that they are at a guild, and everyone has been watching the weirdo because he was making weird faces. Nin wishes he would think more about her instead, but Rud crushes her soul when he declines. Rud gets real serious as he explains that he doesn't want to think about anything else since his little sister has an incurable disease, and his only hope is the secret treasure of the Labyrinth, which is said to grant any wish. This hope isn't looking too good now, as Rud thinks about how he failed everyone in the battle against the rock golem. Nin tells this absolute failure that he shouldn't feel bad at all since he did his job. It just didn't make sense how fast his absorbed shield was depleting, even though he didn't get hit. Rud reveals that it wasn't just at one instance. Recently, whenever they enter the labyrinth, his absorbed shield's been depleting for some mysterious reason. He has had to consume a bunch of potions, so he apologizes for making things difficult for Nin as their healer. She once again tells him to stop apologizing since he always does a good job protecting her. Nin then glazes him up a bit by pointing out that his absorbed shield has a value of 9,999, which makes it the highest value shield to ever exist. Just then, spectators marvel as the one they call the hero arrives. He is the one who has beaten numerous labyrinths despite being so young, but this guy is clearly very arrogant. Everyone practically drools over this guy, as he is the hero known as Keeglis. He apologizes to Rud for being late and then welcomes Lilia and Lily, who are standing way too close to each other. Keeglis introduces them to their new party members, but Nin is furious. She reminds Keeglis that only parties of up to 6 people are allowed to enter the labyrinth. The addition of the 2 new members would make their group 7. Keeglis has a real dark side, as he reveals that their party will be down to 6 very soon and kicks Rud out of the party. Of course, Rud demands to hear a reason, so Keeglis, the absolute jerk, tells him that it's because he's a useless tank. A look back at the golem fight shows that Rud was shaking after blocking the monster's attack. Keeglis did the typical hero thing to defeat their opponent, but he was upset that Rud instantly lost a significant portion of his shield.
お前がタンクとして役立たずだから。ライフバースト！昨日あれだけの外皮を一瞬で失っただろ。それ。
That was the final straw, as he determined that the party wouldn't be able to make any progress with Rud as their tank. Nin is still furious and points out that Rud was blocking the attacks, but for some mysterious reason, his absorbed shield was still depleting. Keeglis thinks it's because of the 2 skills Rud has that have unknown effects. Nin tries to defend him, but Keeglis isn't interested in hearing excuses and reminds a little chick that they all could have lost their lives. The new members he found are better anyway. They are evasion tanks that have become very popular these days. Evasion tanks are able to fight while dodging enemy attacks, which is way better than Rud, who can only defend. Keeglis kicks him out for good, so Rud just accepts the decision. Keeglis is a serious jerk and stops Rud from leaving just yet. He explains that they didn't make any money from the golem battle, so he will have to take something from him. Keeglis really rubs the failure in, as he tells Rud that he is just an incompetent tank that wastes his absorbed shield. Keeglis then leaves with the Rud sword while he laughs like an evil maniac. The Conjuring twins know better as they thank Rud and wish him luck. Rud apologizes to Nin since she was the one who invited him to join her party, but he just wasn't good enough. Nin wonders if this is really goodbye, but Rud tells her to come visit him in his hometown one day. He hopes that they will come soon, and then tears up at the kind words. She puts up a tough exterior and says that she won't miss him afterwards. Rud thinks about what to do next, as he can't go to his hometown. Yet he wonders if Keeglis was right about Rud's own skills, chipping away at his absorb shield without him realizing it. He wishes he could figure out what his mystery skills do, but adventures with the Identify skill are extremely rare. His depressing train of thought is interrupted when he hears a group questioning if they can handle an escort job with just the three of them. Our eavesdropping protagonist over here says that they're headed to Kurra's, and his hometown is on the way. Rudd approaches them, and we see just how big our boy is. He towers over normal-sized humans. Rudd asks if he could join them, and he doesn't even need them to pay him. Even though our boy's clearly a giant, these dweebs wonder what rank he is. Rudd is actually only F rank, but it's because he has spent all his time in labyrinths. Rudd hesitates to answer, but one of the little people recognizes him from the hero party. This height-deficient group stops being so skeptical and now begs Rudd to join them. The old guy they will be escorting is glad to hear that they have a new member, but he has all his money tied up in his home, so he can't pay them more money. As they begin traveling, Rudd feels bad for not telling them his rank, almost like he tricked them. If you really think about it, he could just tell them now, but he decides to just protect the wagon as best he can. Their little journey begins, and we see that their group hinges a little battle. They also enjoy a meal and even have some type of love story going on. As two of the short stalks make out in the woods one foggy night, the old man wonders if they should rest soon. Rudd doesn't care how tired Grandpa is and tells him that they're nearly at Kurra's. He doesn't have a good feeling about something, so they will head straight there. Rudd determines that they will be fine as long as they watch out for ambushes, but he is shocked by something. He stops the wagon and tells the group to quiet down. Rudd goes alone to check if it's bandits, but when the fog clears, everyone is shocked to see that it's just a girl. Rudd doesn't sense anyone else nearby and determines that it isn't a trap, so he checks up on the girl. This girl is terrified for some reason, so Rudd tries to be nice to her. A gust of wind reveals that this girl has a gemstone embedded in her chest. But before Rudd can say anything, a monster appears. It's a giant forest snake, so the little gem girl runs for cover. An old grandpa explains that the monster's poison is deadly. The others are apparently cowards, as they instantly give up without even trying. They are certain that their lives will end as the snake goes to attack them. But our boy Rudd uses his provoking ability to attract its attention. The thing spits its poison out at our protagonist, but he blocks it with his oversized shield.
こっちを見ろフォレストスネーク挑発
Some of the snakes are extremely dangerous. Poison burns right through Rudd's clothes, but he tells the others not to worry. He has a skill that protects him from all status effects. Rudd tells the others to attack while he distracts the creature. But our boy really picked the wrong group of people to join, as they have no clue where to even start. The snake decides to just knock everyone back, and Rudd slams into a tree. Rudd has a vision of his sister calling out to him, and he wakes up. He refuses to let his life end here, and gives an inspiring speech to his lackluster group. Rudd points out that he doesn't have a sword right now, so it's up to them to cut the snake down. They still seem pretty lost. So Rudd talks to them like they are brain dead and instructs them to grab their weapons and move their bodies. Rudd rushes the snake while commanding everyone to work together, and his team members finally seem ready. Rudd declares that he is the strongest tank and proclaims that he will block all of the snake attacks. All his team will have to do is believe in their own strength, and he guarantees they will win. Rudd has prepared the perfect moment for them to attack and instructs them to move in. The newly inspired group followed his orders and managed to kind of do something to the snake. The old man freaks out and points out the obvious. He states that the snake is preparing to land a final blow, and they need to dodge it. The snake is going right for Rudd, but he determines that he cannot dodge the attack. It's more like he refuses to dodge, as he knows that there is meaning and is blocking the killing blow. Rudd then heroically blocks the snake, making the perfect opening for the others to follow up. They combine their power and even amaze themselves when they finally manage to defeat the giant snake. The group then acknowledged that they couldn't have done it themselves. Rudd is a pretty big guy himself, so he knows a thing or two about dealing with a giant snake. And he tells the others that what really matters is that they work together. He instructs them to carve up the snake while he goes to check on the mysterious gem girl. He finds that she was running from the snake, but she has nowhere to go. These two literally speak for like 10 seconds, but he offers to take her back to his hometown, and she agrees. Rudd doesn't want the little girl to get the wrong idea, so he decides that she needs some clothes. Old Grandpa just happens to have clothing for little girls lying around and gives it to them as a thank you. Grandpa wonders if she is an escaped slave, and our boy can sense that she is a homunculus. Homunculus serves humans as slaves, so they normally don't travel alone. So there must be some mysterious circumstance behind why she is in the forest. Rudd points out that slave traders likely wouldn't enter such a dangerous forest, and she wasn't wearing a collar like all slaves in anime do. This girl is definitely a mystery, but Rudd decides to look after her for a while. The next day, Rudd leaves the others after reaching their destination, but the group wants him to join their party. They would be honored to adventure with a strong tank like him, but Rudd reveals that he needs to find the secret treasure. This group knows about it well, as this treasure is said to be able to grant any wish and even has the ability to create a homunculus. The little albino girl is shocked to hear this word, but this group doesn't know that she is one and openly talks about how much they hate homunculus. They do some serious trash talking about how expressionless they are and how they don't show any passion for what they do. What's even scarier about the homunculus is that the only way to visually distinguish them from humans is the magic stone on their chest. Rudd is the only one who seems to notice that the girl is upset about what they are saying, so he quiets them down and leaves. The little girl shows some relief, and they begin their own journey. Rudd introduces himself, but in typical anime fashion, this girl reveals that she doesn't have a name. Some beautiful petals are flying around every way, so Rudd decides to call her Luna. Rudd fears that he might have offended her somehow, but she actually loves the name. That night, Luna spots some scary wolves and shocks Rudd when she springs into action to eliminate them all. This confirms what Rudd was already thinking. Luna must be an illegally created homunculus. This was made clear when she showed the will and emotions other homunculus lack. On top of that, she can even fight. An illegally created homunculus must be disposed of by her frightened gaze. Reminds Rudd of his little sister. The little girl apologizes for ruining dinner, but Brad says it's okay. More importantly, he wants to know why Luna didn't just destroy the forest snake, since she is clearly strong enough. Luna explains that she is skilled in magic, but she doesn't have a single melee skill. This is surprising to Rudd, and he determines that she must just be able to imitate the effects of skills. She goes over her list of spells, but he is shocked when he hears that she can use the Identify skill, identify it as a very rare skill. Only one other person in the neighboring kingdom has it, but that person was said to have passed away a few years ago. This means that, as of right now, Luna is the only person in the world with the Identify skill. Rudd desperately wants to know about the two mysterious skills he has, so he asked her to use Identify on him. She does so, and she reveals that Rudd has 4 skills. One is called Healthy Body. It makes him immune to status effects, boosts his natural healing, and makes his body as tough as possible. The next is Provoke. It has the ability to focus an enemy's attention on him. Those are the 2 Rudd already knew about, so he prepares himself to hear the 2 unknown ones. One of these mystery skills is called Life Conversion. This allows him to convert the absorbed shield that he has depleted into strength. Rudd has the highest absorbed shield value to ever exist, and now there is a way to use it offensively. Rudd couldn't use it before, so he determines that some skills can't be activated unless the person understands them. Rudd's final skill is called the Shield of Sacrifice. This skill allows him to treat the absorbed shield of his allies as his own while protecting his allies. Both his allies' toughness and his own increase. This means that while making them tougher, he can also take the damage from others. Things finally start to make sense as Rudd realizes that he was taking damage without realizing it because he was using a shield of sacrifice to protect his party members. Rudd lets out a laugh as he has been worrying about his unknown skills for the longest time, but he never thought it would be resolved this easily. Rudd thanks his new little friend, and she is glad she could be helpful. As they arrive at his hometown, Rudd thinks about the irony. He was kicked out of his party for having skills with unknown effects, but he actually had the ultimate skills for protecting his allies. Knowing this, he can return to his hometown with his head held high and finally see his sister again. The moment our protagonist steps into town, he is greeted by Melina, who wants to hang out immediately. She is on her way to buy a hammer, and their friend named Phil is there on patrol. These two watch over his sister Manisha, so Rudd is glad that he can depend on them when he goes on adventures. Melina introduces herself to Luna as the town's blacksmith, but Luna is terrified. Phil explains that she works as a sub-leader for the town watch, but it's clear that she is just as shy as Luna. The group chats it up for a bit, and Luna finally gets comfortable around this silly bunch. At his house, the two are careful not to make too much noise, as his sister might be sleeping. but he's surprised when she appears to welcome him. Rudd explains that he will be taking care of the little albino girl, so Manisha tells her to make herself at home. Manisha goes to prepare an extra meal for Luna, but Rudd wants his sickly sister to rest. Manisha explains that she's feeling good today, so the two agree to cook together. Luna rudely points out that there is something clearly wrong with Manisha's hair, and Rudd explains that it is called physical idiosyncrasy. This means that Manisha's hair moves according to her emotions. Manisha seemed to know that Rudd was coming home, and it was because of her skill. Rudd is thankful that she made his favorite dish, and Luna points out that they are really close. They all sit to enjoy their meal, but Luna's some kind of barbarian, as she doesn't know how a spoon works. She goes overboard with her apology and explains that she has only ever used a spoon a few times. A look back shows a glimpse of her slave days and her epic struggle to hold a spoon. Luna promises not to fail them again, but the two point out that she needs to stop being such a drama queen. Manisha gives her some pro tips on spoon using and tells her to take her time learning, as she will be teaching her one thing at a time. Rudd is glad to hear that, and Luna thanks her. A little montage shows them teaching her a bunch of stuff, and Luna surprises them one day by cooking an entire meal. The food is delicious, and Rudd is amazed that she has mastered every basic skill in such a short amount of time. This is a bit strange, so he wonders if it's because she is a homunculus. Manisha brings Luna a dress to change into, but Luna just rushes off with it awkwardly. Manisha can't figure out the little weirdo, but Rudd assumes that Luna was just worried about Manisha seeing the magic stone in her chest. While showing Luna around the town of Avancia, Rudd explains that they don't have a guild or a church, and its most remarkable feature is a little orchard. The red-headed girl's father wants Rudd to marry his daughter, but he declines, and instead Rudd asks him to make a replacement for the sword that was stolen from him. The blacksmith plans to have his daughter help him, and he suggests that Rudd show Luna the monstrous farm. Rudd does just that and explains that monstrous vegetables are plants that grow into monsters. They only need mana to grow, so they can be grown all year round. Some little nerds come to bug our hero, but some old lady tells the kids to go back to doing their child labor. Luna has some serious PTSD from her time as a slave, so she shakes uncontrollably. Instead of being worried about her, the old woman just wonders if she is Rudd's girlfriend. Rudd, of course, explains that they're just travel companions and introduces Luna to the old lady, Grandma Gigi, the town's apothecary. She is the one that makes medicine for Manisha, but she wishes she could do more for Rudd's sister. Gigi asks Luna to help harvest some monster spinach, and some of Rudd's old friends arrive to help. They all have a grand old time, and our pair walks away with some weird vegetables. For all the trouble, Rudd makes things a bit awkward by complimenting Luna, but he quickly changes the subject by having her try the vegetables. She thinks the giant tomatoes are delicious, and Rudd wonders what she thinks about his town. Luna really likes how nice everyone is there, and she would be extremely happy if she could stay there forever. Just then, Luna reminds him of the magic stone in her chest and dramatically reveals that she is not human. She is a battle homunculus that was developed in a neighboring nation. Luna apologizes for not telling him sooner and explains that she thought he would end her life if he knew she was a homunculus. She is grateful for how nice he has been, so she couldn't continue lying. Rudd reveals that he actually knew she was a homunculus this entire time, and Luna can't understand why he helped her. Rudd reveals that before coming to this town, he and his sister lived in the slums. Luna's eyes look just like Manisha did back then, so he couldn't just leave her. Rudd wonders if she would rather live as a homunculus or a human, but Luna believes she doesn't have a choice. Rudd points out that he has never heard about homuncula not being able to become human. Besides that, he enters Labyrinth for a similar reason. He is searching for the secret treasure that may or may not exist in order to cure Manisha's illness. They are both chasing shadows, so he thinks that's the perfect reason for them to get along. Rudd's words pierce her homunculus heart, and she wishes to become human. The two agree to chase their goals together and happily shake on it. When they return home, Luna wants to reveal her secret to Manisha, and she explains to Rudd that she doesn't want to hide it from those she is close to. Luna just comes right out and tells her that she is a homunculus, and she apologizes for keeping it a secret. Manisha knew there was something off about the kid, but she still asks Luna to continue being friends with her. Luna, of course, accepts, and Manisha points out that Rudd must have known this the whole time. Rudd helps those that no one else will, and he has always been that way. Sometime later, our duo finishes up cleaning the entire mansion, and everyone rushes to get a taste of Manisha's world-class tea. Luna points out to Rudd how popular his sister is, but Rudd is long gone and on his way to get some tea. Rudd explains that being the first to drink the tea makes it taste even better. But Phil is there to point out that Rudd really does have an unhealthy obsession with all things involving his sister. Rudd wonders if Manisha is feeling okay after making the tea, but she just tells him that he worries too much. She may not be in great health, but she doesn't want to hold him back. Rudd explains that she has never once held him back, but he's interrupted when his boys ask him to duel. Rudd thinks this is actually perfect and tells the others that he wants to duel Phil first. Outside, Rudd explains to her that he wants to test his previously unknown skills in a mock battle, and he picked her since he knows that he won't have to hold back against the town guard sub-leader. They agree that the one whose absorbed shield is depleted more loses, and the fight begins. The two strangely don't move at all, and some guy points out that their fighting styles don't emphasize speed. The first to move is Phil, but Rudd blocks her attack. She continues her assault on his shield, and Rudd can tell that she has gotten much stronger since they last fought. Her attacks feel very heavy, so Rudd knows that if one of her strikes lands, he is a goner. Luna can't believe how strong Phil is, and Manisha explains that the town guard is really just a bunch of youngsters who didn't move to the city. Few of them are actually skilled fighters, but Phil and Rudd are special cases. She admits that they should be putting their skills to use in a bigger city. All the nerds in the crowd cheer for Phil to finally knock Rudd down for once, so Luna counters them by cheering for Rudd. Manisha joins her, but they just manage to distract him. Rudd gets scratched by the attack and decides to use his new ability to use the damage to his benefit. Things get a bit dicey when Rudd falls off balance, but he composes himself just in time to smash his shield right into Phil. She goes flying and is stunned when she realizes that his one blow took out her entire absorbed shield. Everyone in the crowd is stunned to see that Rudd has finally learned an offensive skill, but can't understand how he was able to destroy Phil's absorbed shield that has a value of 2,500. Phil wants to know what that incredible skill he used was, and Rudd reveals that it's his life conversion skill. It allows him to convert depleted shield power into strength. He can't use it all the time, but their little battle showed him that it's very powerful. Rudd thinks about how, until now, he has always been focused on defending as a tank. However, going forward, and thanks to his life conversion skill, he will also be able to do some attacking. Rudd is ready to take on all challenges, but all the cowards watching conveniently remember that they have other things to do. The girls admire how strong Rudd is, but Manisha can't help but compare herself to him. A look back shows that their parents abandoned Manisha and planned to only raise Rudd. They dragged Rudd away, and from how sickly Manisha appeared, it was clear that she wouldn't last much longer. However, Rudd would return to rescue her. Manisha wakes up from the memory dream and thinks about how Rudd has always come to save her in the end. Of course, she must wonder if her brother is actually happy and if he would be living more freely if it weren't for her. The next morning, Luna wakes up with some serious bedhead, and she points out that her two new friends have taught her so much. Rudd explains that when he and Manisha were younger and living in the slums, there was an effort by the nobles to return abandoned kids like them to a proper life. They were able to attend night school because of it, but Manisha doesn't have fond memories of school. Rudd was always an exceptional student, so everyone expected him to become a knight. However, students would gossip about how Manisha was holding him back. Rudd became an adventurer to cure her disease, but everyone felt bad for Rudd for not being able to just do what he wanted. Luna senses that something is wrong with Manisha, but she doesn't know how to act like a human and can't console her properly. Manisha asks her for advice since she doesn't know what to do about Rudd throwing his life away for her. Luna has no clue how to answer and explains that she actually has a real problem since she doesn't have anyone in her life that would do that for her. Luna suggests that she just talk to Rudd, but Manisha doesn't even know how to interact with him. She doesn't think it's right to rely on him so much, so she keeps as much distance between them as possible. Luna suggests that she just tell him everything, but Manisha freaks out as Rudd has returned home. Luna assures her that it will be fine, but Manisha loses her nerve as soon as she tells Rudd that she wants to talk to him. She fears that, deep down, Rudd might regret saving her, but Luna assures her again Manisha just comes right out and asks Rudd why he saved her, and she is shocked when he reveals that it was because she saved him once. Rudd explains that the kids always used to be terrified of him because he was so much bigger than them. Manisha was different, and she treated him like he wasn't a giant freak. Rudd explains that he is happiest when he is around Manisha, and she breaks down in tears. Manisha apologizes for doubting him, and the two thank Luna for her part in solving their family problems. Luna doesn't know how to handle praise, so she runs off to start cooking. Just then, Rudd is annoyed that someone would dare interrupt this blissful moment as they hear a knock on the door. It's surprisingly Nin, and she reveals that she isn't part of the hero party anymore. After Rudd left, they kept failing to clear dungeons, so the party disbanded. A look at one of their battles shows that their party was a complete mess.
お前ら戦闘態勢を整えろ。エリア、さっきからなんだそのざま、ちゃんとやれ。
Kigless couldn't figure out why they had become so weak, and he realized that the only difference was that they didn't have Rudd anymore. Kigless realized that his special attacks cost way more of his absorbed shield than they did before. On top of that, his skills have gotten much weaker, and his shields have been depleting faster. After Rudd left, Kigless refused to believe that he was wrong for kicking Rudd out and forced everyone to continue fighting in the dungeon. They were taking too long to defeat monsters, causing new ones to spawn at the same time, so the others didn't want to continue fighting. Kigless refused to give up, but his abilities eventually stopped activating. Kigless finally felt what it was like to lose his entire shield from an attack. And it hurt way more than he thought it would. Terrified out of his mind, Kigless ran from a monster. But without his shield, this monster broke several bones in his body with a single attack. Kigless practically wet himself in the face of death, but his party managed to get him out of danger. His reputation was tarnished, however, and he blamed their new evasion tanks for their failure. The twins stick up for them and point out that Kigless was just recklessly rushing in. These girls are ruthless, as they point out that he hasn't trained in a while, and his body has become scrawny and unhealthy from drinking all the time. Nin piles on as well since she just noticed that Kigless just realized how his ability actually works. His life burst attack enhances his physical abilities at the cost of a major chunk of his absorbed shield. The timer lost his entire shield came right after Kigless unleashed the biggest life burst he had ever cast. Nin determined that Rudd's skill must have allowed him to treat other shields as his own. So Kigless was actually just pushing the cost of his attack onto Rudd. Rudd's shield value was 9,999, which is why Kigless seems so strong. Kigless refuses to believe any of it, as he calls himself the hero. But everyone just leaves this nerd. Nin now apologizes since she didn't know that Rudd was taking the damage that her shields were taking. Rudd apologizes for not figuring out his own skills sooner, but he is shocked to see how fast Nin is ready to move on. Nin introduces herself to the others, but stuns our boy when she reveals that she will be staying for a while. Nin thinks he doesn't want her there, but he just explains that all the inns are full. Manisha offers to let her stay there, but Rudd explains that Nin is the daughter of a duke. She is a noble saint, but Nin explains that she would love to stay there. Rudd lets her stay in his room while he sleeps downstairs, but Nin has other ideas.
でも、あんたらしい部屋って感じで落ち着く。
俺はリビングで寝るから。じゃあ。
別に、ルードなら一緒でもいいのに。
演技はやめろ。
あれ？わかっちゃった？
Rudd declines and Phil arrives at the front door in a panic. She reveals that a monster she has never seen before has appeared in the orchard and begs him to come help. They arrive to find the beast, but they can't tell what it is because of the miasma surrounding it. Nin purges the miasma.
さすがだな、に。
まあ、このくらいは。
この魔物。今まで出会ったモンスターとは生物としての構造自体が違うように感じる。まるで魔素に自我を支配されてしまったような。
And it reveals that this creature is unlike anything Rudd has ever encountered. It's as if its magic essence has taken over its sense of self. Just then, Phil's dad arrives to attack the beast, but he fails. The monster tries to end all their lives, but Rudd quickly uses his provoking ability to take the damage. He instructs the others to cast healing spells on him, and Rudd does his best to fend off the monster. Wright is drawing all of its damage, so he tells the soldiers to attack. The monster just throws them around, but Rudd takes all the damage for them. Nin and Luna heal him up, so he praises them and tells the soldiers not to hold back. He explains to them that his Shield of Sacrifice skill lets him take the damage dealt to their absorbed shields, so they are shocked that they can just charge in without worrying about taking damage. It's the ultimate tank ability, so they all attack confidently. The monster has no choice but to run, but Rudd tells the others to stop it as it's heading towards the town. Luna summons a wall to stop it, and Rudd decides it is time to end the fight. He pours the 20,000 points of damage he has taken so far into one attack and unleashes an insanely powerful blast. Rudd's attack causes way more damage than the monster, and he wonders if he went a bit overboard. Everyone still praises him, however, as they manage to avoid any casualties. Strangely, this wasn't C-rank wolf, but it had the power of an A-rank. All monsters capable of using magic have magic stones, but this beast oddly had 2 of them. These stones are similar to the ones used to make homunculi, and they see a scar on the beast. It looks like someone forced the stones into it and stitched the wound shut. Someone is creating monster homunculi, but using homunculi for battle is prohibited. That doesn't seem to be stopping this mystery person, and Rudd fears that this may be a scary sign of what's to come. The next day, Rudd reads that labyrinths have been popping up everywhere, and one has even appeared in Avancia. Manisha points out that Rudd must know how Nin feels about him, and wonders if he pretends not to notice because of her illness. Rudd explains that he doesn't want a relationship because it would distract him from raiding labyrinths. Manisha trusts her brother's decision and just hopes that he doesn't stop caring about her. Later, Phil gathers everyone to take down a chameleon, Kong. They are only found in regions far south of them, so they must investigate why they have appeared near their town. A labyrinth has appeared somewhere there as well, so if they spot it, they're supposed to tell her. Nin's then amazed to see the sword that the blacksmith made for Rudd. Rudd explains that it has an enchantment skill. This means that different elements can be used to change the magic stone's mana and the sword's enchantment. Rudd can use the magic of all elements, but not well enough to be useful for attacks. However, if he channels it into the stone, he can turn his sword into a fire type. Just then, some scoff-faced jerk points out that Rudd is an F rank. This guy thinks that the amazing sword is being wasted on someone like him, but Rudd points out that this guy is only a C rank. The guy keeps talking crazy, so Luna gets really upset. Rudd calms her down and explains that he would rather be underestimated than overestimated. Then he points out that everyone underrates Rudd because he won't update his rank. He is actually strong enough to be a saint, like her to name him a knight, and she reveals to everyone that he actually turned down the offer. The scarred-up jerk is a fan now and wonders why Rudd doesn't update his rank. Rudd explains that if he does that, then the guild will start summoning him. Just then, the chameleon Kong comes out of nowhere. Phil Mediate immediately stops his attack, and she even manages to push it back. Rudd uses Provoke to take the damage as always, and the giant gorilla thrashes on his shield. Every attack is extremely heavy, but Rudd is glad that the others are managing to attack it without getting harmed. Everyone attacks with great enthusiasm, but something doesn't feel right to Rudd. This thing is making a lot of noise and making huge movements to get attention, almost as if it were a tank. Things soon become clear as the monster roars and more of them appear. One of them takes out a poor soldier, so Rudd tells everyone to stay back. They are all stunned, since these are just dumb monsters, but somehow they planned a diversion. Phil begins to panic as they are surrounded, but Rudd reminds her that she's the leader of the soldiers. He reminds her to lead and uses his Provoke skill again. Scarface worries about his new hero, since taking on all 3 will be too much, but Rudd is confident these monsters can't defeat him. Luna lands some serious damage on one, and the trio of jerks finish it off. Rudd knows that chameleon Kongs are weak to fire, so he ignites his sword. A fire attack is super effective, so Phil's able to finish this one off. The last monkey unleashes a barrage of punches on our boy, so the girls use magic to trap it. Another attack slices it up, and Rudd lands the final blow. Everyone celebrates, but they acknowledge that they wouldn't have been able to do it without Rudd. Scarface calls Rudd a monster for not being scared of the gorillas and apologizes for what he said earlier. Rudd tells this guy to go kick rocks, but he is shocked when the gorilla bodies die just like they do in the labyrinths. This is pretty strange, but Phil finds the entrance to a labyrinth, and our boy Rudd couldn't be happier. That night, everyone celebrates the appearance of the Labyrinth by Avancia since it will help revitalize their little town. Some guy tries to get slick with Manisha, but Rudd goes to have a little talk with him. Luna points out to Nin that Rudd doesn't seem too happy, and she explains that he must be worried about the Labyrinth. This is because if the Labyrinth monsters aren't defeated, they sometimes leave the Labyrinth like the cons did. Finding people to defeat the monsters is the common solution, but that comes with its own set of problems. Anyone can become an adventurer, even the worst kinds of people. Bringing them to town could cause all sorts of problems. The answer to this is clans, where members are held accountable for their actions. Avancia doesn't have any clans, so Rudd worries about what might happen to Manisha if adventurers were to come there. His concern is interrupted, however, by the very not-sober Phil. Sometime later, Rudd breaks up a fight, and we learn that it's been a week since the Labyrinth appeared. A ton of adventurers have shown up, and Rudd has become quite popular after helping the townspeople with several requests nearby. Another fight is about to break out between two high-ranking adventurers. Rudd arrives to stop them, but they insist on defending the honor of the respective clans. Rudd warns them to stop, so the guys wonder which of their clans should be allowed into the town. Rudd explains that the town doesn't need guys like them, but some kids decide to stick up for one of them. Rudd stops this kid and then tells these guys to back off since you won't take it easy on them the way Rudd did. Rudd explains that their town has its own rules, and if they insist on fighting, then they will have to answer to him. The guys decide to apologize and beg Rudd to join their clans. Rudd is glad to see that they were able to calm down and points out how clan adventurers really are different from individual adventures. Things might not be so bad, but it's clear that he won't be able to leave town for a while. Afterwards, Rudd goes to meet with Mr. Build. Mr. Build spoke with the Lord and was presented with two options. The first is for Rudd to create a clan and become its leader. Rudd thinks this is very sudden, but Mr. Build points out that it really isn't, since people have been singing his praises for a while. Rudd is honored, but he explains that his only goal right now is to secure Manisha's health. The townspeople don't want to bring in an outsider, and they insist that Rudd be the leader. Rudd wouldn't mind at all, but he is determined to cure his sister's illness. Mr. Build then explains that the second option is to destroy Avancia's labyrinth. Rudd is against this since it would hurt the town's development, but the higher-ups can't allow an improperly managed labyrinth to remain open. If Rudd refuses to form a clan, then he must join the party currently exploring the labyrinth and destroy it. Rudd is given some time to decide, and he encounters another fight. These guys refuse to listen to a lone adventurer, and Rudd wonders if forming a clan is the only way to calm things down in the town. Just then, Luna arrives, pleading for Rudd to return home. As there is something wrong with Manisha, Rudd finds that she is feeling as bad as usual, so he tells her to get some rest. Rudd realizes that if he forms a clan, he won't be able to travel to visit various labyrinths. He might never find the wish-granting treasure and won't be able to cure Manisha. Rudd makes his decision and tells the other girls that he will destroy the labyrinth. He wants their help, but Nin points out how it will hurt the town's development. Rudd is sure that's what he wants to do, as he will choose Manisha over the town every time. Luna presents another option and explains that he can just choose someone to lead the clan in his place whenever he wants to travel. Rudd doesn't want to force that responsibility on anyone, but Luna offers to do it since it means she will be protecting the town. She wants to help Rudd the way he helped her and then tells him to stop ignoring what he wants. Nin then offers to help Luna and explains that she wants to help Rudd since he is always protecting her. Manisha then shows up and tells her brother that she isn't the same person who always needs to be protected. She wants him to do what he thinks is best and says that she is fine. Rudd can obviously tell that she is not fine and declares that he will protect Manisha and the town. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about the third part of the Strongest Tanks Labyrinth raids by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
Take you